This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome on inside Behind the Mic here on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Brad Dalius and Keith Jackson coming to you on this Friday, November the 9th, 2018. Great to have you aboard here. So much to get into. It is a football Friday. We're all set to officially preview Week 10. Lots of great games this week in action. We're going to start here locally as we always do on Fridays. And the Rams, they will host the Seattle Seahawks over at the Coliseum. That's the first game up this week, Keith. And you just wonder, coming off of the tragedy in Thousand Oaks earlier this week, if there'll be some kind of special moment of silence or a tribute to the people's lives who were lost, unfortunately, in that tragedy. So obviously, different players reacting this week. Jared Goff coming out on Twitter and tweeting that, thoughts and prayers to all the victims. And obviously, the whole team, the organization is heartbroken over what happened. So that obviously is going to be weighing heavily on them coming into this game.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. Just to recap, this happened on a Wednesday, and I remember we were in the studio at the studio.
Yeah, as soon as the show ended, walking out, we happened to catch it on
and
TV.
We caught it, and we was like, wow. And, I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until I actually started watching it a little bit more. And then when I got home, I was watching it some more, and I remember I'm getting home at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the 1:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I have to find out what the end game is to this, and it became really serious. I mean, this guy comes in and kills kids, man. It's just crazy, and we were all just off air talking about how life is precious and things like that before this has even happened, and then we see this happen. And it's just a trip how these type of things happen all the time. And it shook me up, and it did. It shook you up and shook up. Chris was with us at the time as well.
Our social media manager.
And I know just, after seeing all these athletes tweet about it, it shook them up as well to see that happen. And it just kind of shook up the whole world, man. So it's fortunate for this to happen. Condolences to those families that lost their kids. But we got to do better, man, as a country, Brad, to figure something out where these things prevent these things from happening. And they said the guy had PSD or something like that, PTSD, which is another mental health issue that we think. And and for him, it's fortunate that type of thing, mental illness that it's going on with him. I don't know if it's the cause of it or what, but if it was, we got to do a better job at figuring things out for those type of things, so these guys can have the proper treatment when they come back. I guess he was a former Marine or something like that, what they reported too. So we got to have the better treatments and stuff for things like that to happen. But yeah, it was crazy to see all these athletes, how it shook up them. And so I don't know where their mind is going to be for the game. These guys are true professionals, and so I figure that the Rams will do a great, they'll have their game plan for against Seattle, and they should do a great job against them. But it's not only, I think it just shook up the Rams. I know they're closer, but I know Seattle guys, they're probably saying the same thing because they see like, man, what if this was my child out there?
Those are the things that make you stop and pause and obviously think long and hard about those things that maybe we wouldn't think about on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And of course, the Rams having their team headquarters in Thousand Oaks, that's where they're a whole bunch of the time practicing during the week and in the off season as well. So that's why this is so hitting close to home for this organization. As for the game itself, we saw just a couple weeks ago this Rams team go up to Seattle. Tough game, as it usually is, and that played out the same way that time as well. And Todd Gurley was a big reason why they were able to win that game a couple weeks ago. That coupled with Sean McVay's aggressive play calling, especially going for it on fourth down a couple times in that game.
Yeah.
You fast forward to this week at home, coming off of their first loss of 2018. in New Orleans against the Saints. They look to rebound. And look, Seattle's a team that's 500. They're 4-4. It's been an up and down season for them. They're still trying to. It's almost like they're, it's like a resistance band. Think of it that way. And they're trying to run out of it, but it continues to pull them back, sort of say. Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of the Seahawks, who trying to find their way. And this should probably be a close game just because of, once again, Seattle always plays the Rams tough. But I think if Seattle's going to have a chance to win this game, I think they're going to try and exploit, once again, the Rams secondary, especially with Talib being out. And also just that secondary as a whole kind of struggling a bit last week.
Yeah, I can see Tyler Lockett having a big game.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to look for. And this is will be a big win for Seattle if they can come into L.A. and beat the Rams. For the Rams, let me tell you something. I think in their mindset, they're like, this is a must-win for us because we do not want to lose 2 in a row, and then we'll be in a tiebreaker situation with the New Orleans Saints, and we don't want to go. The New Orleans Saints has the tiebreaker. So They don't want to drop another one, especially when, look, New Orleans going to Cincinnati, so we don't know what's going to happen there. So, New Orleans feels like right now, in their case, that they're in a great position, and all they got to do is, with the addition and picking up Dez Bryant, that all they got to do is kind of just coast, continue to win games, and hopefully the Rams will drop another one. But it's not panic time for the Rams players right now. I think what they need to do is just tighten up on the defense a little bit, which I'm sure that's what they did this week and worked on all this week. And then offensively, continue to be successful by giving Todd Gurley the ball. I mean, that's what it does. If you run the ball on him, what happens? They have to stack the box up, and it's just going to open up for the receivers like Brandon Cooks to get wide open catches. And for him, no one can guard him one-on-one. He's the fastest dude in the league. So I'm looking for a tight, close game. I think the Seattle wants to get some get back from what happened a couple weeks ago. But in the long run, at the end of the day, I think the Rams come out with the win in this situation.
It is a great point about how they don't want to drop back-to-back games, especially with the showdown against Kansas City looming on November the 19th. That's a Monday night game, of course, in Mexico City. So going into that game, obviously they want to get back in the win column, and that's what they're going to try and do. And they still have some relatively challenging games down the stretch, if you think about it. They have some easy ones, some layups, and at Arizona and at Detroit, but at Chicago, and you still have to play the Eagles at home later in December. So some tough ones here, Stu. I mean, they're in a good spot overall. We know that at 8-1, but when you're talking about, like you said, the Saints trying to battle for home field, that's a real dogfight they're in, because there's no question. The Saints right now, New Orleans is a place you just don't want to play in the playoffs when they're rolling. Let's talk about the Chargers. They play at the Raiders. Oakland is just, spiraling out of control, Keith. The wheels have kind of come off the bus, sort of say. The Chargers should really go in there and probably dominate the Raiders at this point. It's really become a lost season up there by the Bay.
Yeah. This is a easy win for the Chargers. This is a game they don't want to lose. Why? Because they come back the next week and they got to go play the Broncos, and the Broncos come to them. And, right now, I think for the Chargers, they got something rolling right now. Recently, I believe First Take had Melvin Gordon on the show, and they talked to him about their Super Bowl chances. And he basically said, we're just taking a game at a time, which is great. I'm glad he said that, rather than saying, oh, yeah, we got a great shot. But he also said, it's a possibility. It's definitely reachable. It's definitely something that we can get there, So it all depends with this team, man. Bosa, when he comes back, or if he comes back, that's the whole situation there. But he will be a great addition to that defense in terms of what they need in order to get some stops. Their kicking, they've always had problems with. I think that's going to be their Achilles heel.
Last week we saw it again. Caleb Sturgis missing another kick. They just can't seem to get that right.
And it's, to me, I just don't get it. It's like, wait a minute, man. Is there anybody you can pick up in free agency that can give you a kicker? That's really what they need. If they had a kicker that can just kick the ball 35 yards, 40 yards out, I think the Chargers would be all right. They'll be in a lot. The 2 games that they lost was because of kicking, So, they could possibly be undefeated. look, this is a good team. It's really weird when you look at them because they're the team that goes up and down. But the bottom line is they only lost 2 games. They're 6-2.
It's hard to believe their last loss was at the Coliseum against the Rams way back in Week 3. Since then, you're right. They have ripped off 5 consecutive victories. And they're looking for 6 in a row this week. They continue to go under the radar, and I guess that's because their best win during this streak here was against Seattle last week. Yeah. And that's been their biggest win of the season. So they're going to have an opportunity to continue those ways coming up. But look, at Pittsburgh still later in the season, at Kansas City, at Denver. They have to play Baltimore at home, who's always tough. So they'll get a chance to continue to build that resume going forward.
There's really 3 big games out there that they got to, that you really want to hone in. You want to beat the Broncos, you want to beat the Steelers, and you want to beat the Chiefs. Those are the teams you want to beat because those are the teams that can possibly knock you off or take a lead. So, I think this game right here is crucial that they come out 7-2 at the end of this week going into playing the Broncos.
If the Chargers are able to win this week, keep pace with Kansas City in the division, they put themselves in a good spot. We've been talking about it for quite a long time. They need to win the games that they should be winning and beating up on some of these teams. At the Raiders this week, look, it's a Raiders team that has been beaten down. We know that at this point, this team is just fighting for a 2-14, 3-13 campaign overall. If they were to get to like 4-12, that'd be an unbelievable finish, right? Based off of where they've been at this point so far. So the Chargers have to keep up the winning ways. And look, like you said, feed the rock to Melvin Gordon. I mean, he has been their stalwart back at this point in time. And defensively, keep doing what you can do with what you have. I think that's the biggest thing. And if they're able to just do that and do the things and limit the turnovers, they should be okay. Coming up on the other side, we'll continue to go through our Week 10 NFL preview. We'll get into some of the other games as well. It's Behind the Mic here on KABC Radio. Welcome back Behind the Mic. We're here on KABC Radio on this Friday night. Brad and Keith hanging out. Be sure to follow us across social media at BTM with Brad. On Instagram, check out our link in the bio for our live online stream. Busy world of sports as we're diving into this evening. Get you ready for Week 10 across the NFL. On Sunday, we did the Rams, the Chargers before the break. Let's get into some of these other games, and let's take a look at the best team right now in the AFC. Still one of the best teams in football, that being the Kansas City Chiefs, 8-1, hosting the Arizona Cardinals, 2 teams that are basically going in 2 opposite directions at this point in time, Keith. And when I look at the Cardinals, 2-6, Josh Rosen has gotten a chance to start here for a couple of weeks, which I love. You know that. I want to see him out there. They released Sam Bradford here recently, which is a little bit surprising to some people, especially because that if anyone were to pick him up, the Cardinals would be on the hook to cover the rest of that contract. I think probably it makes the most sense if I think about it, though, here, because at this point, I think Sam Bradford is probably all but done playing, at least at this level. I think he has had numerous opportunities across the NFL, whether it be originally with the Rams, being drafted by them when they were in St. Louis, then his time with the Eagles when Chip Kelly was there, and obviously a limited time here in Arizona, and then of course you can't forget about Minnesota in there as well. So he's bounced around a lot at this point, and he has been at his very best. He is a good quarterback who has inconsistent tendencies. But within the last year or two, I think it's been pretty evident that his game has steadily declined.
Well, I think injuries caught up to him. I think the situation over at Arizona wasn't a good situation for him. I don't think they really gave him a fair shot. I think they pulled him. Yeah, I don't think they pulled him too soon, man. They put in Josh Rosen too soon.
Is it that, or is it more so just they didn't do a good job in surrounding him with better people?
That's another thing. They didn't surround him with good players. I mean, John Brown was gone. They don't have the same type of receiving core. The line is horrible. You're not going to, and let's just say what it is. And you have your star corner who's requested a trade. It's a whole disarray up there. So. For me, he hasn't really gotten a fair shot. And then, look, coming into this season, Arizona Cardinals was going to start Josh Rosen anyway. They had a whole interview about this, Josh Rosen and Sam Bradford together. And I remember Kurt Warner was doing the interview, and they said, so, you know, you guys are battling for the spot. And everybody knew that, they're going to go with Josh Rosen, but they're going to give Sam Bradford, just out of respect, the nod first. But really, 2-3 games in the season, and they were talking Josh Rosen already. Like, he didn't get a chance to really showcase that, look, I can still do this.
They maybe should have never signed him, in my opinion, then, because if they were convinced, and I thought it didn't make a lot of sense for me to sign him if once you drafted Josh Rosen, if you knew going into the draft you were going to draft a quarterback because you were picking at 10, really close high up, a really good pick overall. If you knew you were going to take a quarterback, why did you really take on Sam Bradford? Because
in that contract.
You knew you weren't going to win here in 2018, did you? You know what I mean? Did you really think you were going to compete in 2018? It didn't really make sense to me to begin with.
Yeah, it didn't. And also his injuries has caught up to him as well. You know, so look, I think there's some teams out there that can definitely use him. Buffalo.
That's when you mentioned a couple of these teams. It's true. I mean, he still is good enough to play for a couple teams because there's teams who are desperate.
There's definitely teams that are desperate. I think that would be an addition to him to really, but do it when at the end of the season. Do it next year. Don't do it now when they're gonna have a line. You got to build something around the guy. No quarterback in the league who does not have a line. And he has to get rid of the ball soon. He gets into his 3-step drop. Is going to survive in the league a long time. That's not going to happen. So, just ask Eli Manning right now.
Same thing in New York.
Yeah. So, when you look at it, I'm hoping that maybe possibly he can get another job somewhere next year.
I'm just trying to think, Keith, because. Yeah, Buffalo, I could see that, but they do have Josh Allen coming back at some point from injury.
Yeah, but
Jacksonville, that's maybe a team, but
Oakland,
they're probably going to get younger, if anything. The Raiders, okay, maybe out of those three, that could be the most realistic potentially if I think about it. Maybe Oakland.
Maybe they funny. Take a stab Oakland's always the last stop for a lot of players in the NFL. Not to be knocking Oakland like that, but it is.
It's crazy though how it's become that way.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, and so look, he can probably even be a good backup. There's some play. Look, I wouldn't mind him being a backup for a Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, for that, so to speak. They don't have great backups.
No, they don't.
So, I mean, he can be a great backup for some good teams. So, we'll see.
As for the team they're going to be playing on Sunday, that being the Chiefs, at this point,
no chance.
Yeah, no chance, right? This game is pretty much going to be a wash overall. As you look down the schedule, though, for the Chiefs, Keith, I mean, it's just that game against the Rams coming up on the 19th. Outside of that, it is very favorable for them to win out, if you think about it. I mean, at Oakland...
Look, these are the things.
Oakland twice, actually. At Seattle is probably their toughest game outside the Rams.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. That Seattle game is going to be tough for them, I think. Why? Because Seattle plays well at home. They're a 500 ball club right now, but they play well at home. And I can see the Chargers. I was going to pencil that in and say the Chargers could possibly be that team that beats them. And that can possibly be a game. We never know what can happen. That can be a game changer in terms of positioning for the playoffs. Because really the top three teams, right, and I have to say, in the AFC right now is Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Patriots.
Yes.
In the AFC. And then you got like the Pittsburgh Steelers probably going to be in that mix because they're starting to play a little bit better. And you never know what the Titans are going to bring, or you never know the Texans. We don't know.
Right.
It's too soon.
It's a lot to
sort through. But look, I'm going to say that you never know. The Ravens may be able to upset them. You just don't know. I can't see it happening, but
at this point, I've lost confidence in Baltimore.
If they put in Lamar Jackson, that can probably change some things a little bit.
Maybe probably a little bit too late at this point.
I'm a little disappointed in the Baltimore Ravens. Though.
They have a serious decision to make. I mean, we talked about this with. There's a lot of teams who have big personnel decisions this offseason. Baltimore is one of them with the head coach and with the quarterback.
Yeah, but it would be great for that Rams team to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs and can get one get a
with
win
the Chargers.
Yes,
or Rams
Rams
next week, and then the Chargers later on. And look, that's the game. I've been circling it for a long time for the Chargers when they play Kansas City at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
That's a game that if the Chargers want to all this talk about the Chargers, they can compete potentially with the best in the AFC, maybe a Super Bowl opportunity for them to get to Atlanta. The only way that becomes, I think, a realistic possibility is if they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And it remains to be seen if they could go in there and do that. Yeah. That type of win has eluded this franchise for quite a long time. But like you said, Keith, the Rams potentially could knock them off. Tough games coming up here, especially when you factor in Patrick Mahomes' rookie season. That rookie wall, does that come into play potentially at some point after, maybe like week 13, 14, 15?
These guys are zoned in because they're really desperate to make postseason.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
He'll be tested in that sense with him just being a rookie, and can he consistently keep up the play that we've seen all season long?
Yeah.
So, interesting game this week. We like them big, obviously, over Arizona. Let's take a look at the Saints because they take on the Cincinnati Bengals, who, once again, if they're playing in prime time, they're probably going to just lay an egg. If you get them on any other day of the week, any other time, you never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah.
And maybe Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton have something up their sleeve this week, but things are really starting to come into picture now as we get into the second half of the season. We know who teams are, what they can do. Teams are improving. The Saints obviously are an extremely hot team right now, only getting better seemingly week by week. We touched on earlier Dez Bryant coming into that offense. Will he have an immediate impact? That remains to be seen. But regardless if he can gel right away or not, Drew Brees is just clicking right now. And this would be probably the upset of the week, in my opinion, if the Bengals could somehow get a win here.
Yeah, they're 3-1 at home right now, and it's really up to Mixon and Green. We don't know if AJ Green's going to play.
That's a big question mark.
And that's the big question mark if AJ Green's going to play. If AJ Green's not going to play, then yeah, there's going to be a tough.
They
really
probably don't have
tough.
enough firepower in offense.
Yeah, they won't. They probably won't. But they do play tough at home, the Cincinnati Bengals, and you look, the Saints are forming into being the team or being the team we're the team to beat in the NFC. They really are. Like, to me, they're starting to form into something. And like I said, I don't know how the Dez Bryant situation is going to help them out. It's not going to help them out this week. We know that for sure. But maybe next week, then we start to see what this team's going to look like going forward. But look, this is going to be a tough game for the Saints, I believe, in the beginning because it's away.
Yes.
And Cincinnati's out, and Cincinnati knows that they need to win. This is a game they need to win. So I think this is going to be a very tough game. But the Saints are tough too. They're 4-0 at home away. That's a good sign when you can be a road team and be undefeated on the road.
We haven't been accustomed to them being that good away from the Dome.
Exactly. And you look at their record, they're 4-0 away. That's a big sign. That's a huge sign. That's saying, look, we can beat you anywhere. And so, they're going to have I think it's going to be a tough game for them. But, man, with the Michael Thompson and Alvin Kamara, the way they've been playing, and Drew Brees.
Ooh, it's been lights out.
It has been. So, this will be, I think, a grind-out game in the beginning, but I think it will open up, and I think I can see the Saints winning this game.
It's amazing how many people have got on board now with this team, and yours included, right? Yours truly here, because I was really hot and heavy on the Falcons at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And man, how times have changed right now. This Saints team really has it going on across the board. On the other side, after the break, we will continue previewing Week 10 here in the NFL. We'll get into a couple other games. The Chicago Bears continue to play good football. They take on the Lions team right now, and seemingly the Bears have a great path to claiming the NFC North title, with the Packers suffering a couple consecutive losses here, so we'll get into that. The Patriots are at Tennessee to take on the Titans. That's an interesting matchup. We'll get into that one as well. And then the big one this week, Dallas and Philly. That's fascinating. A lot of storylines there. We'll get into it. It's Behind the Mic here, KABC Radio. Great to have you with us as we roll along on this Friday night. Brad and Keith taking you up into the top of the hour here on 790 AM. Let's go through some more of these games now and take a look at the Bears hosting the Lions, Keith. Detroit is 3-5, Bears 5-3. I think at this point in time, Chicago has a clear path to winning the NFC North. And if for whatever reason they don't win the division, I think it would be a disappointment at this point in time. I really do. I know the Vikings are still a good team, and they're right there as well. But with the Packers being somewhat down, and especially with their consecutive losses here, and looking like they're probably not, it's going to be an uphill battle at least for them to get to the postseason. And for what the Bears have been able to do, especially some of their close calls this year, I think it would be disappointing if they don't win this division.
Yeah, it definitely will be disappointing them if they don't win the division. But you know what? Also, people have, if you notice, Khalil Mack hasn't got as many sacks as he has in recent early
Yeah, he
season.
hasn't been quite as on fire.
Yeah, and really, I think people have figured out a way to contain him. And I'll be honest with you, Brad, I think the Detroit Lions are going to upset the Bears this week.
Really?
But I've been watching them play, and man, they've been having some close games lately. And I just think for some reason, I think they're going to get it done this week. And they'll keep it. If they can keep it a low scoring game, I think they will come out on top and win this game. You know, they have Galladay, who's been playing exceptionally well. The receiver,
you like him a lot.
I like him. He's really a receiver on the rising, and in this league. And he reminds me a little bit of like a Julio Jones type of player because he's big receiver and strong. And then you have the rookie. Kerryon Johnson, who's been playing well. And so, he didn't play well last week, but that's the Vikings. They played a tough team. But they play teams tough, and I have to say that they're getting closer and closer to winning, and I think this week they break out and they win.
Wow, that would be a huge win. And as we talked about before, it's been an up and down year for the Lions. First year with Matt Patricia, they've gotten some good wins, some bad losses, bit of a mixed bag. But yeah, this one would definitely go a long way to really, I think, validating this rookie year of the head coach for Patricia there. And because they were ready to run him out of town.
Exactly, the first game.
Right, the first game. So, yeah, I really think that if he can get some more, even if they don't make the playoffs in year one with him, if they can get some more key victories, I think that only boasts his resume going forward and just makes it all that more impressive. And again, this division, it's always going to be mirrored by what the Packers are doing, where they're at. The reality is Green Bay's 3-4-1. And we said Chicago is 5-3. Minnesota's 5-3. I'm not really ready to write them off, Keith. That wouldn't be right to do so.
Yeah,
I mean, they are tied for first in the division. But as far as them being a legitimate contender in the NFC, I just don't know if I see it. I think that, look, when the big games come up, especially against New Orleans a couple weeks ago, this team tends to play a little flat, and I can't really trust them right now in big-time moments. I think that's the biggest thing. Kirk Cousins has been good, but like we've talked about, for them to really make it far this year in the postseason, he's going to need to be great for them, and I don't know if he can do that on a consistent basis. It remains to be seen for me if he has the ability to do that. So at this point in time, that's why I'm really beating the drum for Chicago. I really feel they should be the team to win this division at this point in time. But we'll have to see how it plays out. Arguably, the division has been a whole lot better than what most people thought.
Yeah, but it's wide open, just like the NFC South. I'm saying just not the NFC South, but just like the NFC East is wide open. The NFC North is wide open, man. This can flip-flop in a matter of 2 or 3 games. Green Bay gets it going. And look, they played the Patriots last week, and they played them pretty tough. They showed me something. They still have some players there that can really that can play big key components in their game. You got Randall Cobb, you have Devin, you got Devontae Adams over there. You have Jimmy Graham. You still got Aaron Jones. You still got some players over there that can really do some damage and do some things. And it's really this next half of the season right now. We're going into the next half of the season. Is very important for the Green Bay Packers. And I think it's very important for the NFC North and the Chicago, Minnesotas, and Green Bay, because I think out of these three teams, it can take a turn drastically quickly. And so, look, the Chicago Bears are the favorite right now. They're strong. They're ahead of steam right now, but but I just think that this can flip flop and go either way. But I'm not quite after containing Khalil Mack. I'm not a believer in them just yet. You know what I mean?
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. I still think it's a Green Bay or Minnesota Vikings.
I think
league.
I think people have a hard
conference
time looking when they talk about Green Bay still being in the mix. I think people have a hard time looking past Aaron Rodgers. Like they see him, and overall, it's just not a great football team consistently. They don't have all the. You mentioned some of them there. That's true, especially on offense, but defensively, look, it's Clay Matthews and kind of everyone else. And we talked about now they have big-time issues in the secondary with inexperience and guys who aren't accustomed to being in those positions. I'm just not a big Green Bay. I've said this for a while now. I don't think this is a playoff team. I would still be somewhat surprised if they make the postseason. And I just feel like they are just really holding on to what they have still with Aaron Rodgers, with injuries and everything. They're just trying to hope that he can somehow continue to put this team on his back and take them as far as possible. It's not enough. That's been evident. They don't have all the players consistently enough around him, and he even admitted it in the postgame last week that they're just not playing up to their standards, and that's true, but they just need more so personnel-wise. And to be honest with you, Keith, at this point, I don't know if McCarthy is really even an elite coach anymore. I don't know if he ever was, to be 100% honest with you. And it's more, I mean, they won one Super Bowl a long time ago.
Reggie White.
And, I mean, they just, they have a lot of holes, I think, on this team. And another team who has big decisions to make coming up this offseason, especially if they don't make the playoffs here in 2018. New England is at Tennessee. This is a game that back at the beginning of the season we thought could have big-time AFC playoff implications going forward. And at this point, Tennessee, again, classic example of up and down, 4-4, tough team to read. You have the, New England ties there with Vrabel as the head coach, Malcolm Butler, who hasn't done much of anything this year, and Deion Lewis as well. A couple other guys there that have somewhat faded away since leaving New England. This game, at this point in time, Tennessee, they're just a team that is a hard team to pick, I think. I think that's really the bottom line. And the Patriots have just been getting better and better. Now it's 7-2 over the past couple of weeks, and it's a whole lot to juggle on offense if you're trying to defend what they can throw at you, and especially with Josh Gordon really stepping up. And it's just amazing how even with Gronkowski out injury-wise, they haven't really missed a beat, and they've gradually just gotten better as an offense. So whether Gronk plays or not, I don't think it really is a big factor in this game because the Titans have their hands full on defense. Yeah,
they do have their hands full on defense, but you know what? The New England Patriots got their hands full on defense every week because they just can't stop anybody. And then what I look at is like the old saying goes, Brad. Offense can win games, but defense wins championships. And I think it's going to catch the New England Patriots and bite them in the butt if they don't hone in and try to figure something out where they
now
can.
To be fair, they held Green Bay to 17 points.
They did, but the big plays, especially, or really what really hurts the New England Patriots is the big downhill plays. And when you can do that, and if you can do that on the road, for Tennessee Titans, if they can do that at home and get the big downhill plays, it's a different outcome of this game. They're inconsistent in terms of you don't know what to expect from them. But let me tell you something. Tennessee Titans can play with anybody. That's one thing I have to say. Marcus Mariota is a running quarterback. He likes to make plays with his feet. And the New England Patriots have a tough time, as I said before, have a tough time stopping running quarterbacks. We all know that. And so I'm not saying that this can be that they're not going to win this game. I think they will. But it just goes back to the old saying, man. It's just defense wins championships. And if this wants to be a championship contender team, they're going to have to know how to stop guys on the road 3-and-outs. They have to get multiple 3-and-outs on the road, though. Because what it looks like is that at the rate that they're going right now, you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have this solved going into playoffs, and then maybe getting the second seed and having to go on the road to Arrowhead to go play against the Kansas City Chiefs. And
they want to avoid that like the plague.
They definitely want to avoid that. And so, to me, they have to hone down on that defense, really key on that in terms of not giving up the big plays, getting a lot of 3-and-outs. And it really starts now, the second half of the season. This is where it starts. And this is a good starting point for them, that they're going to play against a Tennessee Titan team with a Marcus Mariota who likes to make plays on his feet, and how to contain that, because Patrick Mahomes does the same type of thing. So if they can take care of that, which they will, then they'll be all right. Look, this is going to be a good game, though. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. I think this is going to be a good game because they got players over there that really have a personal relationship with the New England Patriots players and the coaching staff, Deion Lewis, so to speak, Malcolm Butler. I can just see those guys really, really bringing their A game, and that Mike Vrabel, for that matter, as a coach. And he's been with the Patriots staff for a long time. He idolizes Bill Belichick, as we all know, and he would love to get a big win against them. And I can just see them coming with their A game. I think the New England Patriots, this is the game that they really have to focus in and beat, because this can be one that can really bite you in the butt if you don't take care of business.
If Tennessee is going to win this game, they're going to have to score a lot more points. They're only averaging 17 this year. The defense that's been the strong point for them, no question. But the offense, I think they're going to have to score a lot more points than that in order to hang with this Patriots team at this current point in time. It's Behind the Mic here on KABC Radio. Coming up, we'll go through the last couple of games to round out Week 10, including that Dallas-Philly matchup on Sunday night that we're all looking forward to. Also, the return of Leonard Fournette, what that means for Jacksonville, Sam Darnold, his injury status with the Jets. We'll cover it all here on Behind the Mic. Welcome back inside Behind the Mic. Final segment of the week coming up. A couple more games to preview here. We move on to the New York Jets, Keith, hosting the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Sam Darnold is going to miss his first career NFL game with an injury, and a couple of bad teams here, to really put it bluntly. I mean, Buffalo's 2-7. We know they're reeling coming into this game. The Jets haven't been too much better. At this point in time, you got to start thinking, we'll start here with the Jets, that Todd Bowles is really he's coaching for his job coming down the stretch here. You have to think. With him coming back, I was surprised they brought him back. They retained him for 2018. You have to figure this team probably needs to get to 8-8, maybe, for him to be brought back. That's how I would think of it, at least, that he really is coaching for his job here in these coming weeks. So this has a potential to be somewhat of an ugly game with Darnold out, and obviously Josh Allen still out for the Bills. Nathan Peterman, I believe, is going to start once again for Buffalo, because I don't think Derek Anderson is ready to come back yet from that concussion. So you've got Nathan Peterman, and is it McCown starting for the Jets? I believe it is. Yeah. So that's a very difficult matchup as far as both teams trying to actually move the ball and put up some points on offense.
But, if you look at it, they really are not that good, the Jets. You look at their roster. They don't have any good players. I don't knock them like that, but, what? Bilal Powell, who's out. Isaiah Crowell, who's okay. But other than that, man, they have no star power on this team, man. So, you got to have some type of talent when you're playing in the NFL. You got to have some type of talented players when the type of teams you're playing, especially the conference they're in the AFC East, and they're playing against the Patriots, Miami, and Buffalo. You got to have some type of receiving core. They don't have that. They got Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold is okay quarterback. He's not going to be this star power quarterback at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's come back down to earth from those first couple of starts. We've seen that a bit here.
So the reality is they're just not a good team, and so it's only so much you can do. Look, if he's coaching, he probably is coaching for his job. They're probably going to start fresh after the end of the season. I don't think they'll get to 8-8. I don't think they'll win, to be honest with you, Brad. I think they'll win maybe 2 more games this season, and that'll probably be against the Bills, and they played them twice. Other than that, I can't see them winning any more games than that. So, I got them going basically 5-5 whatever's remaining.
5-11.
Yeah, I don't think they can. I don't think they're going to win any more games than that. And they're just not a good team. They got to go back, and they got to go back from the drawing board. Their scouts got to get better and get recruiting guys and get there, better trades. And they really, to be honest with you, they don't have nobody they can trade. No, except for Isaiah Correll or Bilal Powell, but I don't know you're going to get so much for them.
No way.
They don't have.
These guys have been around a long time too.
Yeah, they don't have anybody they can even trade. So really, what they're trying to go after is really you can trade your draft picks. You can trade a draft for a star player, but man, they haven't been good since Brandon Marshall, Darrelle Revis. Mark Sanchez at that moment.
Yeah, not since Rex Ryan left.
Yeah, they haven't been good at all. So
think about this for a second. Which team in the AFC East outside of New England is best positioned for success at the quarterback position going into the future? As it currently stands right now, going into the future beyond 2018, 2019, which team is in the best position in your opinion?
Man, that's a hard call, man. You have to really go with probably Buffalo. If any team, because of Allen, he's a decent quarterback, but other than that, man, I can't put Sam Darnold in front of Josh Allen right now. To me, he's just like I said, he should have stayed in college. He should have did another year in college. Got a higher pick, it didn't happen. So I'm gonna go with Allen. But other than that, look. They probably have to restart all over again, but they've been starting all over every year. They got to do
Buffalo,
something.
I think Buffalo is committed to Josh Allen, and especially from what they've seen this year with some of their backups in there and how horrendous that backup quarterback play has been for them.
Yeah.
I think they're committed to at least giving him a little bit of time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In the future, Josh Allen, what I'm saying, who needs to start all over every year is New York Jets.
Oh, the Jets. I don't think that. Well, no. Actually, no. Sam Darnold is their guy. I mean, through thick or thin, he's going to absolutely have to fall flat on his face, Keith, for them to admit that it didn't work.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is in terms of not quarterback, but everything in between that, they got to get rid of.
Yeah.
They got to clear house.
Complete overhaul.
And they got to do a complete overhaul, what they're going to do, including probably coaching staff. But they got some work to do. So these are just not two good teams. They're playing against each other, but they're not two good teams. That's the bottom line. You really can't say, oh, it's the coaches, this is his last go because he's just not good or whatever. No, the whole team. I don't care what coach comes in here and coaches this team. They're gonna have a tough time winning.
The franchise has gotten steadily worse.
Yes.
Over the past 3, 4, 5 years, it has just been a steady decline. And they had an opportunity a couple years ago to make the postseason, and they laid an egg. I think they lost to Buffalo Week 17. Yeah. 3 years ago or so. So they had a couple opportunities here and there, but outside of that, they have really been dormant for the most part over the last half decade. Let's move on. The return of Leonard Fournette to the Jaguars. They are taking on the Colts in Indy. That's a huge boost for them to get him back. I mean, that's really been one of the biggest pieces missing in that puzzle.
It is a huge boost, but the question remains, is it too late? And is it too late for them to make a run? Remember, this whole team was in a whole disarray because of the defense. Now, I'll have to say this. It's less pressure on the defense because the defense was spending a lot more time on the field than the offensive end because the offense couldn't get anything clicking. Now you got Leonard Fournette back. Probably going to get a lot more time. The defense is going to get a lot more rest. They'll get to me, it'll probably even out in terms of field play, in terms of them being on the field a little bit more than the defense. The reason why this defense was good, to be honest with you, and this is what I learned from Leonard Fournette being out, is because the offense spent a lot of the time on the field, and they really would grind out at least 12 minutes or at least 10 between 8 to 10 minutes scoring touchdowns. They will go and run that clock all the way down, then score. So the defense had a lot of time to rest. The reason, so when Fournette went out, a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of the defense going back and forth on the field, and so I'm really interested to see how that defense responds now when Leonard Fournette's back, in terms of, do they get back to the ways they have been? Now they've traded some guys and things like that has happened. These guys have had some type of dissension between each other. Can they get that back? You know, the good thing is they have now the second half of the season, and they can probably get back in form. But, you know, yes, their quarterback is not the greatest, and I don't believe he's starting anymore. And they've gone with someone else, but with Leonard Fournette
I believe Cody Kessler's going to start again here.
Yeah,
at least for the interim.
Yeah, so for at least with Leonard Fournette coming back, we're going to see what type of team this is going to be. We know what type of team they were the first half of the season, but can they? The question remains, can they get back into their winning form this second half of the season? And my answer is right now is no.
It's hard to believe they've lost 4 consecutive games. They're coming off a bye. They haven't beaten a team since the Jets earlier on this season. They've just been reeling, and it's been evident, like you said, Keith, that players have come out very, very vocal. Frustration has boiled over. Even for Doug Marrone in some of his press conferences, you've seen the frustration there. They just don't seem like a team that was literally just about an inch away from the Super Bowl last year. They just don't seem like anywhere near that type of team now. And yeah, Fournette comes back, but is he going to be a savior type player for them? I can't exactly see it. I can't imagine, like you, I can't imagine that he's going to solve all their ailments at this point in time. They're just not a consistent team. And look, they're not used to winning. That's a big part of it, too, right?
Problem, man.
They're not used to it, and last year they somewhat caught lightning in the bottle. Whether last year was an anomaly to what this team can be over the next couple of years, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's obvious, at this point in 2018, this team is not going to compete. Even if they were to get in the playoffs, they're not nearly good enough to potentially compete for a spot in the Super Bowl. At this point in time, they're just not there. And at 3-5, with so many teams vying for a playoff spot, and if you go through it at this point in time, Keith, actually, in the AFC, a lot of these potential seeds have been almost predetermined, if you think about it. Because if you look at the current playoff picture right now in the AFC, obviously the Chiefs do hold the number 1 seed. New England is 2. And then you go through the different the different divisions, and Pittsburgh at the moment leads the AFC North. You have the Texans leading the AFC South. They have somewhat of a stronghold in that division. That's the one that Jacksonville is obviously in. And you look at the 2 wild cards at the moment, Cincinnati and the Chargers, and right behind them are a whole bunch of teams. And, I mean, Jacksonville would have to leapfrog 3-4 teams to even get into the 6th spot. There's just too many teams right now vying for.
And they're going to need some help, and
a lot of
that's
help.
The thing. And they put themselves in that situation where they're going to need some help. And look, their schedule is not going to be an easy one. On top of that, they got the Colts they play this week, but then they got to go against the Steelers team that's been playing pretty well this year. And then, you know, Bills, they should beat the Bills. They play Colts twice, actually. They play them again in December. And then you got the Titans, the Redskins, the Dolphins, the Texans. I mean, those are teams that can beat you. And so it's going to be a tough road with them, especially with Leonard Fournette's back. I don't think he's the answer to their problems. I think their problems goes deeper than that. I think their problems goes deeper with, you know, like I said, the dissension that they're having amongst each other. You know, I don't think that's going to change.
Quickly, Dallas at Philly. Who do you like Sunday night?
Oh, I'm going with Philadelphia this week. Philly's going to get that done. Alshon Jeffries, I'm pulling for him. Corey Clement. I can't see it happening until, like I said, Brad, until they use Amari Cooper. Dallas can't win games and be the same old Dallas.
Who wins Monday night, Giants or Niners?
Oh, God, why would you do that to me? If I have to pick, I'm going with the Giants.
Hey, great week here on the show. Great work, everybody. We are back at it better than ever next week. For Keith, I'm Brad. Have a great weekend, everybody. Keep living the dream. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for watching Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius. Be sure to like this video and subscribe. Hit that bell as well to get all of our notifications to keep up to date with everything we're putting out there. Thanks for checking in.